Whoever went through my apartment while I was at work didn't break a single thing. They didn't have to. The window latch beside my desk had been taped open from the inside about a week before it happened. Clear packing tape, folded once, wedging the latch up just enough that the glass could be lifted from outside. And I'm the one who let in the person who put it there. By the way, I'm Bennett. 31. I fix furnaces and AC units around Columbus, which matters later, because I'm the kind of guy who can't walk past a screw that's a quarter turn loose. I'd matched with her on a slow Sunday night. The kind of Sunday where you tell yourself you'll delete the app in the morning. On this she went by Nadia. Her profile was easy. A couple of photos, a normal job, a bio that wasn't trying too hard. We talked for a few days and it moved at a comfortable speed. She wasn't pushy about meeting. If anything, she was the careful one, which honestly made me trust it more. But looking back, the questions started on the very first date. And they weren't about me. They were about where I lived. We got coffee at a place off of Kroger Plaza on the east side. Normal first date. Except she kept circling back to the apartment. Did I live alone? Was it a big building or one of those little 4-unit conversions? Did anybody on the block keep cameras pointed at the street? I told her the truth, because why wouldn't I? Old fourplex. Just me. Nothing watching the lot, the landlord's too cheap for that. She nodded like it was charming. Then she asked which days I was out on calls all day, and I said most of them, and I even laughed about it. I was handing her a schedule and calling it small talk. The thing is, she remembered all of it. 2 days later she brought up my cheap landlord like it was already an inside joke between us. She asked me to send a picture of the place. I sent one. Of my desk. By the window. She was the one who suggested the second date be at my apartment. She said she hated loud restaurants, that we could cook something, that it felt more real. I thought that was a good sign. I cleaned for 2 days. She showed up with a bottle of wine and complimented the place in a way I replayed a lot afterward. She said it felt safe. She said you could tell nobody who'd lived here had ever really had to worry. At the time I heard warmth. I thought she meant it felt like me. I had the Buckeyes game on mute in the corner and she barely glanced at it. She wanted the tour. Not a big deal, people do that. But she took her time at my desk, which sits under the only window that faces the back stairwell. She stood right there, looking down at the parking pad, and asked which car was mine. I pointed. The blue work van with the ladder rack, obviously. She said it was easy to spot. Then she unlatched the window and pushed it open a few inches, said she wanted to feel the air, said the apartment ran warm. I remember thinking it was sweet. A furnace guy, and I let a stranger open my window for me. Halfway through dinner her phone buzzed and she stepped into the hall to take it. Her roommate needed something, she said. She was gone for, maybe 5 minutes. When she came back she asked to use the bathroom, and that was another few minutes. I don't remember exactly how long, because I wasn't counting. You don't. You're just glad the date's going well. She left around 11. Texted me from the car that she'd had a great time. The next night the app showed Nadia is typing, 3 little dots, for almost a minute. Then nothing. No message came. And after that the profile just went quiet, and then it was gone. I figured I'd been ghosted. It happens. I felt stupid for cleaning for 2 days, and I chalked it up to bad luck. There was one more thing before the break-in that I only understood after. 2 mornings later, heading out to a job, I noticed the spare key wasn't on its hook by the door. I keep one there and I never touch it. So I told myself I'd knocked it off, and I meant to look under the shoe rack, and I forgot. I want you to hear that part. I looked right at an empty hook and explained it away. 9 days after the date, I came home from a service call and the apartment was wrong. Nothing was smashed. Nothing was flipped over. But my desk chair was turned around to face the door, and I don't sit it that way, ever. The drawer where I keep my passport and a little cash was open about an inch. The cash was gone. My grandfather's watch was gone. The passport, weirdly, they left face up on top, like it wasn't worth the trouble. Even my tool bag by the door had been opened and set back down. Nothing taken. Just checked. I called it in. An officer came, looked around, and asked the one question that actually made my skin go cold. He asked how they'd gotten in, because nothing was forced, and the deadbolt was still locked from the outside the way I'd left it. I'm the guy who notices loose screws. So I went to the window by my desk myself. And I found it. That folded strip of tape on the latch. It wasn't fresh. The adhesive had already gone cloudy at the edges. It had been there since before. Since a night somebody had lingered by that exact window and asked me which car was mine. The next morning my downstairs neighbor brought it up without me even asking. Older guy, retired, sits on his porch and watches the block like it's his job. He said a woman from my unit had propped the stairwell door open with a shoe one afternoon that week. Said she was waiting on movers. He thought nothing of it. Then he described her. The hair, the wine-colored coat. It was her. When I finally went back through our texts, I found a message I'd read right past at the time. She'd asked, almost as an afterthought, whether I'd be working that coming Wednesday, a long install out in the suburbs. I'd said yes, all day, and thrown in a joke about the traffic. Wednesday was the day they came. I'd told her when the apartment would be empty, and I'd made it sound like small talk about my commute. So here's what I keep landing on. The romance was never the point. The date was a walkthrough. She wasn't nervous about meeting a stranger. She was measuring my window, clocking my drawer, learning that the van in the lot means I'm gone all day. Every considerate, careful thing I'd liked about her was just her being careful about the robbery. A locksmith put in a new deadbolt, and I taped cardboard over that window like an idiot until I could rebuild the latch right. My buddies gave me grief for it, a heating guy scared of his own window. I let them. It's easier than the truth. Because you can't relatch what someone already learned. She still has a key that fits a lock I had to throw in the trash. She knows I sleep on the far side of the room, away from the glass. She knows the van means the place is empty. Now I feel every draft in that place before I feel anything else. A heating guy who used to chase a bad seal for the fun of it, and these days I can't walk past that desk without pressing my palm flat to the glass to be sure the window is really shut. It always is. I do it anyway, every time, like the checking is the only part of it still left under my control. She told me the place felt safe. I finally get it. She wasn't describing my apartment. She was grading it.
By our second date, he already knew my street, my dog's name, and which window on the third floor was mine. And I had never told him a single piece of it. I'll call myself Sabine. That fall I was doing inventory for a plant nursery on the east side of Portland. I lived alone above a garage on a hill so steep the delivery guys from Fred Meyer used to complain out loud about it. I mention the hill because it turns out to be the whole thing. On the app his name was Corey. The photos were of a good-looking guy, a little too good-looking, honestly, but not in a way that set anything off. Skiing. A dog that wasn't mine. A bookstore selfie in what I was pretty sure was Powell's. We talked for a week. He was warm and easy, and he never pushed to meet, which, again, read as a green flag. Looking back, he asked the kind of questions I answered without thinking. What time did I usually get home? Did I live with roommates or was it just me and the dog? Did I drive that little Subaru up the hill or take the bus? One night he asked how the ferns were holding up in the cold. I laughed and answered him. And only after did it land that I had never once told him I worked with plants. He moved right past it. So I did too. The first date was coffee at a stump town near the river. And this is the part one keep coming back to. The man who sat down was not really the man in the photos. Same build, sort of. But older. Quieter. And something about him felt second-hand familiar. The way a song you can't place feels. I almost said it out loud. I got as far as, "Wait, do I?" and then I stopped. And he flinched. Just a flicker. Then he smiled and asked how the drive down the hill had been. I hadn't told him I lived on a hill. I let it go. You talk yourself out of things on a first date. But the small stuff kept stacking. He knew my coffee order before I gave it, and covered it with a joke about lucky guesses. He mentioned my buzzer being broken, which it was, which I'd never said. He knew my dog was named Biscuit, and I have never once put Biscuit online. No photos, nothing. When I asked how he knew that, he said I must have mentioned it. I hadn't. And we both sort of let the lie sit there on the table between us. Then my neighbor 2 doors down caught me on the steps. She asked, kind of carefully, if I knew that some guy had been on our street asking which unit was mine. She'd told him she didn't know, which wasn't true, and she'd felt weird about it ever since. That same week, a text came in from Corey close to midnight. He said I'd looked nice walking Biscuit earlier. I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't sent a photo. I stood in my kitchen and understood that he meant he had watched me do it. From somewhere on my own street. That very night. I want to be honest. Even then, I didn't run. I agreed to a second date. Because part of me had decided the familiar feeling meant we'd crossed paths somewhere nice, and I just couldn't place it, and isn't that almost romantic? That's the story I told myself. That's how these things work on you. We met at the same stump town. And halfway through, he mentioned my back gate. How it sticks in the rain. The specific gate. The specific stick. A thing you would only know if you had put your hand on it yourself. He said it lightly, like a helpful tip, that I should get the hinge planed before winter. I asked how he knew about my gate at all. He didn't even pause. He said he'd walked me home once. He never had. Not as Corey. I looked at him under the light. Really looked. And it finally landed. I had seen this face 100 times. Just never on the app. He was the man who bags groceries at my Fred Meyer. The one I'd nodded at in the lot for over a year. And there was a day, months back, that came back to me all at once. He jogged out into the parking lot after me, calling my first name. He wanted to hand back a piece of mail he said had slipped out of my bag. I remember thanking him. I remember not once wondering how a grocery bagger knew my name, or how mail I never dropped had ended up in his hand. His real face was one I'd stopped seeing, the way you stop seeing anything you pass every single day. I don't remember what I said to get out of that booth. Something about the time, about Biscuit needing to be let out. I paid at the counter with my hands not quite working, and I walked out to my Subaru. He didn't follow. He just watched me go, unhurried, like he had all the time in the world. Somehow that was worse than if he'd chased me. The ski trips, the dog, Powell's, none of that was him. That was bait. A stranger's life, borrowed, so that I'd swipe toward someone I already lived beside. I went home and reverse searched his photos. They belonged to a model in another country, posted years ago, hundreds of the exact shots that were on Corey's profile. But Corey was real, and local, and close. He hadn't invented a fake face to hide that he was far away. He'd invented one because his real face was already too near me to ever get a yes. I checked when the profile had gone up. Weeks before we ever matched. He'd built it, sat with it, and waited for me to swipe. And once I started really remembering, I couldn't stop. The time he was 2 people behind me in line, and set his own basket down to bag mine first. The way he always seemed to be clocking out right as I walked in. Little kindnesses I'd filed under nice. Every one of them was him closing the distance a foot at a time for a year, before he ever needed a fake name. I stopped answering. I blocked the account, and the account went dark without a fight, which was almost worse. No pleading. No rage. Just silence. For days after that, I came home up the hill, and there was a single Fred Meyer bag sitting on my doorstep. No note. No receipt. Inside was exactly what I buy, my brand of oat milk, the specific soup, the bread I get. And on top, a box of the peanut butter treats biscuit likes, the ones I only ever bought at that store, from that counter. Somebody had done my shopping for me. Somebody who had watched me do it enough times to know it by heart. I called a friend to come sit with me, and I did not sleep that night. A week after that, I saw him at the Stumptown. The same one. He was sitting in the booth where we had sat, a coffee in front of him, watching the door. He didn't wave. He didn't get up. He just wanted me to see that he could still sit there and wait. And that I was the one who would have to decide whether to walk in. Here's what it did to me, and it's not what I expected. I don't skin crowds for strangers anymore. Strangers were never the danger. Now I catch myself studying the faces I'd stopped noticing. The regulars. The nod and move on people. The ones so familiar they'd gone invisible. And I wonder which of them has been paying far closer attention to me than I ever paid to them. I still shop there sometimes. He still bags. He still nods. And now I nod back. Because at least when I'm looking right at him, I know exactly where he is. It's the days he isn't at the counter that I drive home checking my mirrors.
I matched with her on a Thursday. By Saturday night, I was flat on my back on the asphalt behind a closed grocery store, listening to 2 people I'd never seen calmly go through my phone. I won't put my real name on this one. I was 26, drove a parts route for a warehouse on the south side of San Antonio, and I honestly thought I was the careful type. Watched the news. Locked my doors. All of that. On the app she went by Alexis. Only 3 photos, which I noticed and told myself didn't mean anything. She was quick. Quick to compliment. Quick to want off the app and onto regular text. Quick to want to meet. I know now that the speed is the whole trick. At the time it just felt like somebody who actually liked me for once. We texted all day Friday. And she was curious in a way I mistook for interest. Where did I work? Did I live with anybody? What did I drive, so she'd know what to look for? She asked, real casual, if anybody would notice if I got home late. I mean, honestly, I heard that as her hoping the night might run long. To be fair, it does sound like that when you're the one being asked. She wanted to know my week. Whether my folks lived in town. Small questions, spaced out, so none of them ever felt like a survey. I told her everything. My warehouse. That I lived alone. The truck. By Saturday afternoon, she wanted to meet that night. She picked the spot. A strip mall lot off the access road, anchored by an H-E-B that closes at 11. and she wanted to meet at 10:45. When I asked why so late, she said she worked a shift and this was her only window. Then she said don't bother going inside, she'd be parked around the back. She got shy walking into a place alone. Around the back. I even thought, that's a little strange. A buddy texted right about then. Asked if I wanted to catch the Spurs game instead. I told him I had a date. And I got in the truck anyway. Because I'd already decided I liked her. The lot was darker than it had any right to be. The HEB sign had cut off for the night. And the back stretch by the loading docks had one pole light out, which I clocked without really clocking it. Her text started steering me the second I turned in. Not the front, too bright. All the way back. By the dumpsters. I'm in the dark blue car. There was a dark blue car. Lights off. And there was a second car past it, also with its lights off, that I did not think about until it was already too late. I texted that I was pulling in. For the first time all day, she didn't answer right away. No reply, no little dots, nothing. I told myself she was just walking over. I glanced at the blue car she'd said was hers. Nobody was in it. The windows were fogged from the outside cold, the driver's seat empty, and I remember thinking, for half a second, that she must have stepped out to come find me. It never once crossed my mind that no one had ever been sitting in it at all. I hadn't even shut off my engine when a guy was walking toward my door. Not from her car. From the second one. Calm. In no rush. Hands loose at his sides, like he'd been waiting on the exact spot I'd pull into. And I want to be clear about how normal it looked, right up until it wasn't. He tapped my window and said her name. Said she'd sent him over to walk me across the lot. Behind him, the doors of that second car were already opening. I don't remember deciding to open the door. I remember the door being open. A hand on my collar. And the ground. Then a knee in my back, my own weight turned against me, and a voice close to my ear saying this goes easier if you stop moving. The part one can't shake isn't the hit that put me down, though my ribs are still telling me about it. It's how ordinary the voices were. Two of them now, going through my pockets. One of them holding my own phone up in front of my face to unlock it. He held it the way you'd hold up a menu. Look at it, he kept saying. Look at it. Not angry. Bored, almost. Like this was a shift for them too, and I was just the next thing on the route. A trucker rolling toward the buck he eased up the interstate saw enough to slow down and call it in. The slowing down is probably the only reason it ended when it did. Headlights swung across the lot. Both cars were gone before the truck even fully stopped. By the time I got up on one elbow, the Alexis profile had already vanished off the app, mid-conversation, like it had never existed at all. I sat in an emergency room that night with 2 cracked ribs and a phone that wasn't mine anymore. They asked me who she was. I didn't know. What she looked like. Like 3 photos that don't exist. What her real name was. I never had it. That's the thing about being set up online. You bring everything true about yourself to a person who brought nothing true about themselves. The report took 20 minutes and went nowhere, which the officer was honest about. And here's the part nobody warns you about. It's the part that's still happening. They didn't just take my wallet. My phone was unlocked in my hand when they took it. Everything signed in. Everything open. One of them read my last few texts out loud while I was down there, in a flat voice, like he was checking a list. He knew my mother's name before he stood up. He said it once, quiet, just so I'd hear it. And here's the thing. Over 2 days of texting, I told Alexis where my route ends. That I live alone. My part of town. All the little stuff you tell somebody you think likes you. She wasn't a shy girl running late for a date. She was a set of hands, keeping me talking. Long enough to be worth grabbing. And long enough to be worth keeping. Because a week later I got a sign-in alert on my email from a city I have never once set foot in. I changed the password. 3 days after that, another alert. Then my mother called me, confused, because I texted her at 2 in the morning asking a strange favor from my number in words I never wrote. I got a new phone. A new number. It didn't matter. The email is the key to all of it, and they'd had it open before I ever got up off that asphalt. I lock down what I can find. And something always stays open a crack. One more account. One more login. One more place they left themselves a way back in. 2 weeks after, a box showed up at my door that I hadn't ordered. Inside was nothing but packing paper. My name on the label. My address spelled right. I stood on my own step holding it, and I understood that the phone wasn't the only thing of mine they'd kept. They had the address at all points home too. And they wanted me to know they had it. Now I check my logins the way some people check the locks. Twice, then once more. Not because it helps. Because the not checking is worse. They gave the wallet up somewhere, I'm sure. It was never about the $40 in it. They kept the version of me that lives inside that phone. My messages. My contacts. The map of everywhere I go. And once in a while, late, one of those accounts blinks that it's active on a device that isn't mine. In a city I've never been to. Then it goes quiet again. Just long enough for me to see it. Just so I know they can still open me up whenever they feel like it.